so-called flying saucers.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the SA. It's rotating.
Welcome to Kill the Stigma. Sorry for the change here in the background. I charging my phone, so get to see this today. But anyway, I wanted to talk about what everybody's talking about besides the elections. But when it comes to UFOs, there's going to be a congressional hearing on November 13th, and I want to give you my opinions on it and manage expectations. I think, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do want to discuss the limits of expectations because a lot of the stuff is super classified, super sensitive, and I expect a lot of no comment, or I can tell you in a skiff, or that's classified, especially due to the fact that they were talking about Immaculate Constellation, that is an unacknowledged special access program, which is the most sensitive program you can have. Those are very sensitive. So I want to talk about that because I just don't think a lot of people that I like and respect, like Christian Harloff, I'm as one of them. He's like, yeah, we need a first-hand witness to give us the details and all this. And I just don't. I mean, I don't see that. I don't see that. I just don't. Because you'd be risking prison, and God knows what you say, you could actually harm national security because you have the cover-up of hiding non-human intelligence. And then you have actual national security when it comes to technology. But then you have this other problem that I wish we could figure out, which is the overuse of power, right? From who? To unelected bureaucrats abusing their power with this topic to some very dark, as dark as it gets. They'll go very far to keep the secret. And why? Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about what Immaculate Constellation is, who reported on it, and then I want to talk about why I don't think they'll get into details about that. They might ask, but the details, if it's true, what they reported, which is the parent program of the UAP, which means like the parent, right? So you have all these other programs under it. That is, if that's true, that's wow. That is super sensitive. That's like the Wilson Davis leak. You guys remember that? How people would get very nervous. If you know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry if you're new. There's so much to cover. It's very difficult for me, especially if you're one of my friends from work, or one of my friends in general, or my sister, my family. There's so much, right? It's so hard to make it short. But the Wilson Davis leak was a leak that happened in 2019, and the people that are basically advocating some sort of level of transparency, when you would ask them about this, they would get very nervous. And that is exactly what's going on right now. Even worse with Immaculate Constellation. Will Elizondo got asked about this, I heard. And he allegedly, when the guy said put his hand out, I'm going to stop you right there. No way, not going there. So, do we expect that to get all the good details in a hearing? I don't think so, but I still think it's going to move the needle forward. And I think we need to keep in mind slow progress, not instant gratification. This is a rabbit hole, and a lot of people, I don't think it's going to be one of those things where it's just going to wake everybody up and everybody's going to take this seriously. I think it's going to be a very slow process, but like in 15 years, 10, 15 years, like everybody's going to know it's real. It's like JFK. And I hope that's not the case, that we don't get to the bottom of it. But, you know, everybody knows there was JFK was, it's not conspiracy, it's conspiracy fact. I think with UFOs, it's conspiracy fact that there's a cover up. Now, there's a lot of questions, but is there a cover up? All you need to do is do a little research. If you have just a little bit of an open mind, and honestly, you'd have to be very, very close-minded to not see it. Or stupid, I don't know. Naive, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Now, before I get to Immaculate Constellation, that it's what we're supposed to be talking in this hearing, I want to talk about Jim Semivan, CIA guy. He does a few interviews, very rarely, but this guy knows, okay? CIA, Foreign Technology Division, he knows. He's in the know. He's had an experience, and he basically, what I believe is that he wants the lab. I don't really know what he wants, but he seems very honest to me, and I can tell. We know that he's an experiencer, that he had an experience with his wife, which it kind of messed him up, and it sent him down this rabbit hole. And I believe he's authentic in the way about he feels about the phenomena. Was he full disclosure? No way. He's national security, CIA, but he feels for us, is what I think, and he kind of wants to help us out. And I want to talk about some sensitive programs before I get to Immaculate Constellation. And the reactions and why the government has to figure something out, or this is going to get out of control. And it's also going to help our adversaries with these leaks coming out. So they got to figure something out. Good luck. Well, you know what? I hate to say this, but I actually don't. When you lie, consequences, right? Actions have consequences. From the 1940s, especially since 47, whatever, probably later, there's been a cover-up. Bad things have happened because of it. At some point, the truth always comes out. I always say that. So, I don't know. You made your bed. Now, I can't blame the whole government. It's just a few people, I don't know, saying the Air Force, CIA. As I was saying, CIA, Department of Energy, small parts of the Air Force, Special Investigations, Air Force Special Investigations. I would guess a small part of NASA with another Special Access Program, a small part of NORAD, and also, you know, you have people like the World Economic Forum. And then you have the contractors, the private contractors like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon. All these people and organizations are involved. Private organizations. So that makes it so much more complicated. But we're getting there slowly but surely.
When Congress is now saying, we want to know, where it is, who are the companies, who are the government agencies that are running it, where the program is, you're running into a host of legal problems. And, and I think that's going to be a monumental battle if it indeed, takes place. When Dave Grush talked to Congress, I'm sure he told them where some of this can be found, who is working behind it, but you notice it hasn't come out. None of that's come out. And the reason why none of it's come out is because it's all TSSCI-TK, right? Top secret, special compartmented information. Congress can get briefed on these programs, but there are a lot of programs, particularly waived unacknowledged special access programs where maybe the Gang of Eight will know about it, but nobody else, or maybe one or two people on the Gang of Eight may know about it and nobody else. That's at the discretion of the president and the National Security Council and or the particular agency that's doing it, because the topic may be so sensitive that they can't let that information out. So it's complicated. It's much, much more complicated than Congress is coming out and demanding something. There's a lot more to it than that.
So
I'm hoping it'll help, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly on this, say the language is perfect. Does that mean that there's going to be progress?
Yeah, I think there will be progress, but again, let's go back to the dilemma, right? So what's Congress going to do? So let's say, for instance, Senator Rubio, gets called into an office and they sit him down and they say, well, okay, you want to know what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. And they make him sign an agreement, and by the way, a lot of these agreements, Congress cannot, particularly if they come from the executive branch, Congress can't debate them. Congress can't do anything. I mean, they can't discuss them publicly or anything. But let's say they're given permission and they're told, okay, what do you want to do? So they're told the story, right? As much as the story can be told, I mean, the whole story, but the story is resoundingly incomplete, right? Because nobody knows, the intentions, the capabilities, the complete story. Because the phenomenon or these NHI haven't really told us either. And so you get that, and they say, and here are the reasons for talking about it publicly, and here are the reasons for not talking about it publicly. What do you think you're going to do? Well, Senator Rubio might look at it and make the decision that we can't talk about it publicly. Or Senator Rubio can say, I think we ought to talk about it publicly, but it's not my place to talk about it. It would have to come from the president. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a legal battle somewhere down the road. I don't know whether or not the Supreme Court will get involved in it. But there are a lot of elements that aren't being discussed. It's what I'm saying is it's much, much more than congressional legislation. You're going to need a little bit more than that.
So I think it's very interesting that Jim Semivance mentioned Grush, and he said, you notice how that hasn't come out. Okay, but I mean, we did get the leaks from the Office of Global Access. The Wilson Davis that happened before was a good leak. And now we get Immaculate Constellation. We don't get many details, but we still get it. And my point with this is the government has to be more transparent, because these programs are obviously very sensitive. And if they treat us like we're little children, like Arrow is doing, there's nothing to see here, no evidence of extraterrestrial life. Arrow, by the way, the All-Domain Anomaly Office Resolution Center. It's like Project Blue Book, but basically at the present time, the Blue Book of today, which has got to be a terrible job, man. That's got to suck working there. Anyway, they say there's nothing. Although they presented a few good videos of UAP, and they're like, I don't know what that is. Well, what the hell, man?
There's a conversation that came up in regards to crash retrievals. UAP, UFO crash retrievals. There's stories of crashes. There's stories of completely intact craft being discovered and retrieved. There's stories of, non-human intelligence vehicles being shot down. So, within all that, one of the names that came up was the Office of Global Access. And that's allegedly under CIA, or not allegedly, is under CIA. Does that idea make sense in regards to you have this organization that may be tapped in incidents like that?
Well, first of all, I can't comment on, where, if there is a program that exists, I can't comment on where it might be, what it's about, who runs it. I just can't go there. And
Yeah.
yeah, so so
Understood. Understood. And
and I'm not saying it's there. I'm just saying I just
correct.
no matter where it was, I couldn't comment on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that somebody ran a story and they had I believe they said they had 3 sources that came to them confidentially. Obviously their identities weren't shared, and they said that. So that's something that was going on. And I, as somebody on the outside looking in, it kind of makes sense because, like, yeah, they would have the means to pull something like that off, especially if there was a craft that went down in another country or what have you. They can go in and extract whatever it is, and it just made sense to me. But getting to, again, the idea of, like, okay, we have an intact craft. There's the story of Admiral Wilson is getting read into this program, and he discovers that they're talking about a craft that's potentially operational, and that memo or transcript was provided to Congress. So do you think that there's any legs to that?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah.
And now to Immaculate Constellation. So that's the recent leak. Michael Schellenberger, great journalist. Elon Musk is always reposting things that he shares. He was the one with the Twitter files when Twitter switched to X. And he's a great journalist, and he's got a lot of balls. Now, he's not a UFO journalist. He'll do a story when it's really big, and I respect him for that, and then he'll focus on other issues. His things like abuse of power, censorship, that kind of stuff. But he's kind of a big deal, and yeah, he was the one that brought the story. And it's if it's true that this is the parent program, wow. And I think people, the way they're responding, like I said earlier, Lou was like, nope, do not go there. That was interesting. That was very interesting to me. So George Knapp actually said to the Good Trouble show how some of it's BS, but there's a lot of truth in it. You know what that reminded me of? The Majestic documents and the Majestic 12. The best disinformation is controversial. Okay, so what you want, if you're somebody that wants to put some truth out there, you actually can just do this. You put 90%, 95% truth, 5% BS, and then you let the UFO community fight about it. Controversial, right? It becomes very controversial. The MJ-12 document, for example, that was really controversial and divided the community in the 80s, and I thought it was a hoax. Guess what? Now, I'm pretty sure it's legit, and there's a lot of people saying that's legit that are in the program, and that's from the 40s and 50s, so it might not be a huge deal now, but in the Majestic documents, I haven't digged that much into it, but I know a guy, his name is Richard, I can't remember his name right now, but I'll get to it, and he did a bunch of research to debunk them, and what he found was the opposite. He got a bunch of hits. I'm not saying they're real, but I mean, that's interesting too. As long as you divide the community and have them fighting, that's the goal. It happens with Bob Lazar, it happens with, I don't want to get sad. because I know the game they're playing, okay? And sometimes it might even be in good faith. Sometimes it might be like, let's do this, to get some information out there, and we just fight it off. Anyway, let's get to Immaculate Constellation, okay?
Great article you've got this week, which is Pentagon is illegally hiding secret UFO programs from Congress, sources allege. Tell me more, sir.
Hey, great to be with you, Ross. Yeah, this is an incredible story. So a new whistleblower has come forward with a written report that this person has shared with some members of Congress and with me. And the report is quite extraordinary. It says that there is an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, which is the parent program, is the language used for exactly what you said: UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and apparently a very large database of high quality photographs, videos, infrared videos, apparently much more sophisticated documentation of many more UAP encounters than have been released. And so the article is really about the allegation that this program exists and that it has been withheld from Congress illegally. I think it's important for viewers to understand that the first article of the United States Constitution requires congressional oversight of all of the activities of the executive branch of the United States government. So whether or not you think there are extraterrestrials or non-human intelligence or anything, even if you think that all of this is just some sort of advanced craft, the allegation here by a new whistleblower verified by other sources in a position to know is that the Pentagon the Defense Department has withheld, kept secret this information from Congress, which is a violation of the Constitution and illegal. So I think that what we're looking at here is really a story about the abuse of power, including in potential disinformation from the Pentagon, just as much as it is this other question of what exactly are people seeing in UAPs.
Brief about the credentials of your whistleblower without compromising any of your sources. So clearly you have somebody in Congress who has briefed you on the contents of this whistleblower report, and they've told you who this whistleblower is. Have you been able to speak to that whistleblower yourself?
Yes, I am in direct contact with the whistleblower. I have verified, I've interviewed the person several times. I have verified their credentials and who they are, either in government or as a government contractor. I'm not going to say which, just to keep the universe of potential positions large, as I'm also not revealing their gender or anything else about them to protect them. I think you know, and your viewers may know, witnesses and whistleblowers on this topic, like other topics, but on this topic, they're very scared and their fear is very palpable. I don't think that they're faking it or that they're lying about their fear. I'm also comfortable saying that this person discovered this material accidentally. This was not something that they had expected to encounter. They encountered a large body of information that they describe as a database of this information that's available to others in the intelligence community, in the defense community. So there are, we've heard about that these databases must exist, but the allegation here is that there is a significant body of evidence that has not been made available to Congress in violation of the Constitution, a significant body of evidence that was not included in that AARO report to the public and to Congress. And so that's a serious allegation in and of itself. So I think before we get to what is the phenomenon, and that's a very important conversation, this is in some ways, this is a process story. It's an abuse of power story, and it's pointing to the inadequacy of whistleblower protections at large in the U.S. government. That's also something verified to me by people in Congress, either as members or as staffers, who say that they understand why whistleblowers don't feel comfortable because they don't have the protections they need in order to come forward. So I think the burden is on Congress to protect these brave individuals who are understandably scared to go public because they have had their security clearances, their professions, and in some cases, according to some people, their lives threatened.
Now, Michael, when I did the introduction to you earlier, I very specifically used a section of your first article from September 2023, where you named Stephanie O'Sullivan, a former Associate Deputy Director of the CIA and Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence in the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And you stated that she was aware of a UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, but that she had denied its existence to Senator Marco Rubio. Now,
which is illegal.
I want to focus on that for a moment because of something I know that I'm not going to discuss in detail here. You've had no reason, have you, to doubt the accuracy of that assertion at all?
None.
The allegation on its face is that an officer of the US government has lied criminally to a senator of the United States.
Yes. A very serious accusation.
You know, the thing I find incredible is you made that allegation back in September last year, like a year ago, and absolutely nothing has happened as a result of it. It's I guess what I find depressing is the lack of interest from Congress, at least publicly. You know, we get the odd quotes from Ask a Poll, Matt Laszlo, as he doorstops politicians, and they say, you know, we've got UFO hearings coming, and, you know, obviously we're keen to get to the bottom of this. But where is the vigor? Where is the understanding of the degree of criminality that you talked about in your original article and you're now talking about in this new article? Because what we are talking about here is a constitutional travesty. It's a breach of, as you say, Article 1 of the United States Constitution.
That's right, Ross. And, I should say for viewers who don't know, my bread and butter has been on covering abuses of power. We've covered abuses of power, including the weaponization and politicization of the FBI, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security, on free speech issues, but also on retaliations against whistleblowers. This is absolutely a nonpartisan issue. It doesn't matter your politics. You do not want the agents, the investigative, security, police functions of your government being weaponized for private interests or political interests. That's a very, very dangerous moment. That's how you get totalitarianism. So for me, this is fun. This is first and foremost a story about abuses of power. You might think that what people are seeing, these UAPs are just new military craft and it should be kept secret from the American people. That's fine if you think that. But they still are required by the Constitution to inform members of Congress about those programs. I note in my article that, yes, for super secret programs, you don't notify every member of Congress, but there is something called the Gang of Eight, which are the committee chairman and the ranking minority leader on the House and Senate Defense and Intelligence committees. They are absolutely a requirement to tell them both about unacknowledged special access programs, of which Immaculate Constellation is allegedly one, as well as to notify them of CIA covert operations and other intelligence community operations, including potentially the retrieval or reverse engineering of exotic craft, to use the jargon in congressional legislation. But look, the bottom line here is that Congress needs to show some backbone. The Inspector General of the intelligence community said that whistleblower David Grush's testimony was both urgent and credible in July of 2022. Well, it's over over 2 years ago. Grush has testified in front of Congress. What's happening? I think that ultimately it's up to, journalists like you and me and these brave whistleblowers to and the public to demand that Congress act and do its job and demand transparency and accountability by an intelligence community that on various issues, not just UAPs, is out of control, as outside of congressional supervision.
Man, that conversation with Ross Coulter and Michael Schellenberger was so good. I wanted to keep going. It was so important to me. But I stopped, and I'm going to put the link below. Aim for the Jim Semivan one. And yeah, it's let's see what happens, guys. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I'll tell you what. We're only going one way, and that's forward. Whether it's slow, fast, I don't know. But I promise you, forward is the only way. Have a good night.